In every corner of the world, there are secrets. Stories that have existed beyond understanding, patiently waiting. And we've come to uncover those secrets, to venture into places where darkness never ends. Welcome to Dynamic Dark. Welcome to a brand new horror episode. Welcome to episode 61. I'm Aditya and today I bring you 3 terrifying haunted stories. New stories, new week, new fear. In our last episode, episode 60, we explored creepypasta horror stories. If you missed it, the link is in the description. Make sure to check it out. So, let's begin episode 61. If you are new here, don't forget to like, subscribe, and enable notifications bell if you dare to see what comes next. Today we'll explore 3 haunted stories, each terrifying in its own way. The first story is the town that forgot night. The second story is the field where shadows move first. And the third story is the ocean that returns what it takes. If you love horror like this, then you are in the right place, because only on Dynamic Dark will you experience creepypasta style horror blended with real psychological and haunted elements. For the best experience, put on your earphones or headset. Let the darkness, the suspense, and the fear consume you. If your room lights are on, turn off the lights for cinematic and scary experience. Now, let's begin today's first story, the town that forgot night. The town appeared after miles of empty road. For hours, there had been nothing. No signs. No lights. Just endless asphalt stretching forward, disappearing into heat and dust. Then, without warning, the road widened. Street lights rose on both sides. Buildings followed. Wide streets. Tall structures. Perfectly aligned. The town didn't look abandoned. It looked prepared. The street lights were already glowing, casting a dull yellow light across the pavement. Not flickering. Not broken. Steady. As if they had been waiting to be seen. There were sidewalks, clean and uncracked. Traffic signs with no rust. Storefronts with intact glass. But there was no sound. No engines. No footsteps. No insects. Even the wind was gone. I stepped out of my car, and the silence pressed against me immediately. Not peaceful silence. Heavy silence. The kind that makes you aware of your own breathing. My footsteps echoed far louder than they should have. Each step seemed to travel down the empty streets, bouncing off the buildings and coming back distorted, delayed. I called out. Just once. My voice didn't echo properly. It faded too quickly, like the air itself was absorbing it. Every window I passed was dark. No movement behind the glass. No reflections shifting as I walked. It felt wrong. Towns don't stay this still. Not even abandoned ones. I noticed then that there were no signs of decay. No trash. No broken doors. No graffiti. It was as if everyone had left at the exact same moment. And time had stopped immediately afterward. As I walked deeper inside, the streets seemed wider than before. The buildings taller. Their shapes loomed overhead, blocking more of the sky with every step. The sky itself was strange. Not dark. Not bright. Frozen in an endless late evening glow. I checked my watch. It was working. Time was moving. The town wasn't. That's when the feeling started. The unmistakable sense of being observed. Not from one direction. From everywhere. From windows. From alleyways. From behind street lights. I turned slowly, scanning the streets. Nothing moved. And yet, the feeling didn't fade. The town wasn't empty. It was watching. As I walked deeper into the town, a strange feeling crept over me, heavier than the silence itself. At first, I thought it was nothing, just my imagination, but then I noticed the footprints on the pavement. Fresh. Every single one of them pointed in the same direction, leading straight to the town's center. I stopped to look closer. The footprints were too perfect, too sharp, as if pressed into the ground recently, yet no one was there. No disturbance in the dust. No scuff marks around them. They simply existed, demanding attention. The buildings around me felt taller now, their shadows stretching across the streets in impossible angels. Windows reflected the airy glow of street lights, but some glimpses caught my eye, black humanoid figures, lingering in corners or behind glass, featureless, sliding silently across the walls, their limbs unnaturally elongated. Every time I turned to check the direction of the footprints, the ghosts seemed slightly closer. Not moving like normal beings, more like the town itself was shifting them. Some appeared half inside walls, others flickered in the shadows of doorways, but they always kept their gaze, or rather, their presence, toward me. The sound of my own steps became amplified, echoing off the empty streets, yet there was another sound too. A faint, dragging noise following the same path as the footprints. I could not see its source, but my instincts screamed it belonged to something watching, something moving silently behind the footprints. I began to walk faster, heart pounding. The footprints never changed. The black shadows never blinked. And with every step, the sense of being observed intensified. The town felt alive, its entire center drawing me in, as if it were a living trap. Even the air seemed thicker. Every breath tasted metallic, and the quiet pressed against my ears, broken only by a soft whisper of movement along the edges of my vision. Glancing aside, I caught glimpses of ghosts sliding across the street, leaning impossibly, watching, waiting. They never advanced aggressively, but the implication was clear: they were guiding me, herding me toward the center. By the time I realized I had been walking in a slow circle, I could see the town's heart ahead. Larger than it should be, bathed in pale orange light from the frozen sky. The footprints ended there, perfectly aligned, as if expecting me. And the black ghosts. They had multiplied. Standing now in dozens, scattered across rooftops, street corners and alleys, all featureless, elongated, gliding silently, focusing on me, an overwhelming presence that made my skin crawl. I took a deep breath, knowing I was no longer exploring a town. I was being observed by something ancient, something patient, something that didn't just inhabit the town, it was the town itself. That's when I saw them. At first, I thought it was a trick of the light. But no. There they were. Tall black figures, standing far away between the buildings. Not one. Not two. Dozens, scattered along the streets and rooftops. Their shapes were wrong. Some rippled like spilled ink, others had limbs bent at impossible angles, heads hovering slightly above their shoulders. Some were hollow, voids where torsos and faces should be, faint reflections of the town glimmering inside. A few crawled silently along walls or street lights, while others flickered in and out of view like shadows refusing to stay solid. I froze. They didn't move like people. They didn't breathe. Yet the feeling of being watched pressed against me. It was overwhelming, a weight on my chest, as if the town itself had eyes. Jake. Tyler. Mason, I whispered their names quietly, trying to steady my racing heart. The black figures seemed to respond in some unspoken way, gliding fractionally closer, shifting their gaze toward me. Not aggressive, just aware. Observing. Judging. The street lights' dim glow barely touched them. Their shadows stretched unnaturally, creeping toward me with each heartbeat. Every step I tried to take forward, the nearest black figure seemed to inch closer, silently sliding across pavement and walls, limbs flickering impossibly, some merging with the edges of buildings as if the town itself was bending them into place. I tried to blink, thinking it might break the illusion. It didn't. The figures remained. Watching. Waiting. Patient. And then I noticed a detail that made my stomach twist. Even those that seemed far away were mirroring my movements, subtle shifts in posture and limb angels, a silent mimicry that made it clear I was not observing them, they were observing me. I took a slow breath. The names escaped again, shakily. Jake. Tyler. Mason. And in that moment, I understood. They weren't just part of the town. They were the town, extensions of it, formed to watch anyone who dared enter. And I had dared. Every step I took forward, the town seemed to shift around me. Street lights behind me flickered and died, one by one, plunging the streets into deeper shadows. The air grew heavier, colder, almost suffocating. The three boys, Jake, Tyler, and Mason, stayed close, moving cautiously, but the oppressive presence around us made every step feel like walking through thick water. Then I noticed the new black figures. These were unlike anything I had seen before. Obsidian weavers. Thin, towering forms, segmented like broken puppets, limbs twisting in impossible directions, constantly stretching and retracting as they crawled along walls, rooftops, and even the ground like living cracks in the asphalt. Some emerged from the surfaces themselves, walls, pavements, street lights, slithering outward as if the town itself had birthed them. Their heads were small, featureless, and constantly tilted, tracking every movement, while their torsos were hollow, faintly reflecting the dim town lights inside like black mirrors. They didn't run. They didn't chase. But the feeling of being watched intensified with every heartbeat. Even the street and building surfaces seemed to bend subtly toward us, warping space around the figures. Faint whispers, not words, just a low, vibrating hum, echoed around us, growing slightly louder when we paused. Shadows stretched and coiled unnaturally, wrapping around corners, around street poles, following our every movement. The boys shivered, whispering each other's names, but even that tiny comfort felt swallowed by the town's oppressive awareness. Every time we tried to advance, the nearest obsidian weaver extended a limb impossibly long, moving just enough to block or mislead us, forcing us toward the town's center. Reflections in windows and puddles revealed fleeting glimpses of additional forms, crawling or stretching, appearing and vanishing like phantoms born of darkness. It became clear, these weren't just entities. They were the town's reaction, the physical embodiment of its awareness, guiding, herding, and pressuring anyone who dared to enter. Every step we took forward, The town itself seemed to tighten its grip, reshaping streets, extending shadows, manipulating the black figures. And we were entirely within its reach. A chill ran through me. The three boys looked at each other, fear mirrored on their faces, as the obsidian weavers silently pressed closer, always watching, never blinking, perfectly patient. Waiting. I realized the town wasn't abandoned. Every street I looked down, every corner I turned, the emptiness I had assumed was an illusion. The buildings weren't hollow. Windows reflected more than just glass, and light shadows moved behind them, shifting unnaturally. The streets weren't silent. A low, unplaceable hum filled the air, vibrating through the pavement and buildings alike. And then I understood. Everything, every wall, every street light, every cracked pavement tile was waiting. The black ghosts were everywhere now. Flowing, featureless forms of pure darkness, some drifting along streets, others merging with walls, partially translucent, silently observing. They didn't chase. They didn't scream. They simply existed, omnipresent, reacting to our movements, shadows stretching unnaturally as if bending the town itself. Jake, Tyler, and Mason froze beside me, their faces pale, hearts hammering. Even the smallest twitch of our hands, every cautious step forward, was mirrored and followed by the black shapes, gliding and shifting across the environment, never stopping, never blinking. The town's center loomed ahead, a massive open square I hadn't noticed before. From every alleyway, rooftop, and street, the black ghosts subtly converged, not aggressively, but with undeniable intent. They were like smoke drawing to heat, drawing to us, the intruders. The deeper I looked, the more it became clear. This town wasn't abandoned. It wasn't silent. It was alive in its own dark way. And we weren't visiting. We were participants in its waiting, being observed by countless shifting shadows, the black ghosts, whose patience had no end. Every heartbeat of the three boys and mine felt magnified, the air thick with tension. The town wasn't empty. It was occupied. And now we were fully aware of what or who was watching. When I finally reached what I thought was the town's exit, the road ahead had vanished. In its place, more black ghosts had appeared. Featureless, flowing shadows, darker than the dim street lights, drifting and stretching across the empty streets. They stood in silence, facing inward, their attention fixed entirely on us, Jake, Tyler, Mason, and me. The town's oppressive presence felt stronger than ever. It didn't just watch anymore. It added us to its collection, as if each new arrival strengthened its will. The three boys froze beside me, fear reflected in their eyes. Even the smallest movement drew the shadows closer, curling along walls and rooftops, stretching unnaturally, merging with reflections in windows and puddles. Every surface seemed alive now, subtly shifting, subtly guiding us toward the center, toward the heart of the town. A low, vibrating hum filled the air, wrapping around us, seeping into our bones. The black ghosts didn't chase. They didn't scream. They simply occupied the space around us, silently, omnipresent, relentless. I realized then that the town didn't trap people. It didn't need to. It added them. Every new step we took, every blink we risked, every breath we drew, it was recorded, absorbed, and folded into its dark, patient awareness. The exit was gone. The road was gone. And the town waited for the next footsteps. The second story is the field where shadows move first. The field stretched farther than I could see, pale grass swaying faintly under a grey, washed-out sky. No trees. No buildings. Nothing but flat, empty land, or so it seemed. People said it was empty. They were wrong. At first, there was nothing unusual. The wind didn't carry sound. Birds didn't fly. Even our own footsteps felt swallowed by the vast emptiness. Then I noticed movement at the edges of my vision. Shadows, small at first, gliding across the grass in ways that shouldn't be possible, moving against the wind, independent of any light source. They were featureless, dark, almost fluid in their motion, elongating and shifting as if the field itself bent around them. I called out. Ethan, Liam, and Noah froze beside me, their eyes wide. The shadows responded only to presence, subtly mirroring our steps. Every time we glanced directly at them, they flickered, disappearing and reappearing farther away. The air grew heavier, colder. A pressure settled around us, pressing on our chests, making every heartbeat feel too loud. It was a silent warning. This field was not just land. It had awareness. It followed. I realized then that being in the field wasn't a choice. Once you stepped in, it knew where we were, and it would move first, shadows always stretching toward us before we even took a step. As I walked forward, the silence felt heavy, unnatural in its completeness. No insects buzzed. No wind stirred the pale grass. Even the distant horizon seemed frozen, as if the field itself held its breath. I glanced down at my shadow and froze. It was stretching, elongating unnaturally across the grass, moving against the angle of the sun, bending and warping like liquid ink. Ethan, Liam, and Noah paused beside me, eyes wide, realizing the same thing. Our shadows were alive, reacting to the field, not the sun. Then I noticed them. The black ghosts unique to this field. Low, stalk-like forms rising from the grass, ethereal and flowing, edges rippling like smoke caught in wind, crawling silently across the terrain, never rigid, sometimes merging into one another and into the ground, as if the field itself birthed them. They mirrored our steps subtly, anticipating our movements before we made them, crawling ahead across the grass, stretching toward us, and fading only to appear elsewhere. The air grew heavier. A low, almost imperceptible hum seemed to rise from the earth itself, vibrating under our feet. Every instinct told us to turn back, but the field watched, waited, and pressed forward with us. I realized that the emptiness was a lie. The shadows, the black forms, the stretching darkness. Everything in this field was connected, moving first, always observing. We were not just walking through a field. We were being followed. By the land itself, by something that existed between the pale grass and the grey sky, patient, silent, and relentless. I stopped walking. My shadow didn't. It stretched forward unnaturally, sliding across the grass like liquid darkness, independent of my movement. Ahead of me, more shadows appeared. Human-shaped. Black. But nothing was casting them. Ethan, Liam, and Noah froze beside me, their eyes wide as the shadows multiplied, stretching across the field, slithering over the uneven terrain, tendrils of darkness merging into one another, flowing like smoke caught in a slow wind. Some shadows rippled across the grass like ink in water, others hovered slightly above the ground, elongated, bending unnaturally. They didn't move like humans. They didn't breathe. They simply existed, anticipating every step we might take, stretching forward first, crawling, flowing, and flickering in ways that made the flat field feel alive. The wind whispered across the open terrain, but it carried no sound. Yet the shadows responded, subtly mirroring our movements, always one beat ahead. The air felt heavy, pressing down like the field itself was alive, following us, feeding on our presence. I realized then, this was no ordinary field. The shadows weren't just reflections or tricks of light. They were extensions of the field, connected to the land, watching, moving first, and waiting. And as we stood there, surrounded by them, it became terrifyingly clear. In this place, the shadows were in control, and we were merely intruders. The shadows started moving forward together. Slow, purposeful, as if guiding me, leading the way across the endless field. I hesitated, every instinct screaming to turn back. But as I stepped backward, my own shadow shifted. It elongated unnaturally, sliding ahead of me and blocking the path, like a living barrier made of darkness. Ethan, Liam, and Noah followed cautiously, glancing at the shadows in disbelief. The field itself seemed alive now. Each blade of grass bending slightly as the shadows moved over it, rippled darkness flowing from one shadow to another, connecting them across the terrain. Some shadows rose slightly, hovering a few inches above the ground, while others stretched low, crawling like liquid over uneven patches of grass. They were not aggressive. They did not speak. They simply moved with a terrifying purpose, always one step ahead, pulling us forward, subtly anticipating every motion. The wind whispered faintly across the pale grey field, carrying no sound, yet the shadows responded to it, flowing, merging, and stretching unnaturally, rippling as if the air itself had weight. Every step we took felt measured, dictated by the shadows' advance. I realized then, this field was not just alive. It controlled movement within it, bending the living to its will. And now, these black, shadowy forms weren't just following. They were leading, showing the path, dictating where we could and could not go. We were no longer merely intruders. We were participants in a silent procession across the field, led by shadows without bodies, extensions of the land itself, patient, relentless, and impossibly aware. That's when I understood. The field didn't follow people. It followed shadows. Every shadow we had noticed, every dark ripple across the grass, every elongated, flowing figure was part of the field itself. It was alive, aware, tracking every movement, every hesitation, and reacting first, before we even thought to move. Ethan, Liam, and Noah stood frozen beside me, their shadows stretching and curling across the ground, sometimes flickering into taller, thinner, or more twisted forms, merging into the other black ghostly shapes that crawled and flowed across the grass. The air was thick, heavy, pressing down as if the field itself was breathing around us. The low, almost imperceptible hum vibrated through the ground beneath our feet, a reminder that we were no longer in control. I realized then. Once your shadow entered this field, it never left. It was absorbed, connected, folded into the living darkness of the land, mirrored, multiplied, and always present, moving before you, leading, guiding, waiting. The field was patient, silent, and unending. We were not just visitors. We were now part of the field's awareness, our shadows tethered to its endless expanse, unable to escape, forever observed, forever followed. I ran until the land seemed to end. The pale grey field stretched endlessly, every step swallowed by the unyielding flatness. Ethan, Liam, and Noah ran beside me, their breaths ragged, eyes wide with terror. But when I looked back, my legs froze. We were still standing in the field. Only my shadow was missing. And in its place, something else was standing. It was a towering, black, flowing figure, stalk-like, rippling across the ground like liquid smoke, taller than any human, its form constantly shifting, edges dissolving into mist and then reappearing elsewhere in the field. It mirrored me in subtle ways, twisting and bending like my shadow, but alive and independent, radiating the same airy awareness that had followed us from the start. The other boys' shadows stretched and flickered unnaturally, merging into smaller shadow forms across the terrain. The field itself felt alive, breathing, patient, a living entity that had absorbed part of us, our presence folded into its endless expanse. I understood then, we were no longer just visitors. Our shadows, our essence, had been claimed. And the black forms, extensions of the field, waited silently, guardians of the land, patient and omnipresent, ensuring that no one ever truly left. The field was endless. The shadows were endless. And I was no longer entirely myself. And the third story is the sky that stares back. The sky changed without warning. No clouds moved. No wind followed. No sound came with it. The blue simply darkened, as if something enormous had passed in front of it. I was standing alone when it happened. My name is Caleb, and I remember thinking my eyes were playing tricks on me. The sun was still there, but its light felt weaker, filtered, like it was shining through a thick layer of glass. The color above me didn't shift like sunset or storm clouds. It deepened unnaturally, layer by layer, as if the sky itself was closing. People nearby slowed to a stop. Conversations died mid-sentence. Every head tilted upward. That's when the feeling began. Not fear. Not yet. Awareness. The sky didn't look empty anymore. It looked occupied. The darkness wasn't flat. It moved in vast, slow currents, like deep ocean water seen from impossibly far away. Massive shapes shifted behind the blue, bending the light around them. They weren't clouds. They weren't shadows. They were black forms embedded within the sky itself. Some appeared as colossal silhouettes, stretching across miles, their outlines barely visible, as if the atmosphere was struggling to contain them. Others were thinner, long, branching streaks spreading outward like veins beneath skin. I searched for faces, for eyes. There were none. And yet, I felt watched. The pressure settled on my chest, subtle but undeniable, the same instinct that tells you someone is staring, except this time, it wasn't a person. It was the sky. The darkness shifted again, and for a split second, the blue thinned, peeled back just enough to reveal depth beneath it. Not space. Not stars. Something deeper. Hollow. Endless. That's when I understood. The sky wasn't darkening. It was opening. The air grew heavy, as if gravity itself had quietly increased. Birds vanished. No planes crossed overhead. No sound traveled far. The world felt smaller. And the sky vast, silent, filled with those slow-moving black forms. Felt closer than it ever should have been. Like it had leaned down to look back at me, at Caleb. People noticed shapes forming high above. Not clouds. Not birds. Long black ghostly figures drifting silently across the sky. Human-shaped, stretched, distorted. Too large to measure. The figures stopped moving. The drifting ended all at once, as if something had given a silent command. High above, the long black ghostly shapes hovered in place, perfectly still. No sway. No shift. They aligned directly overhead, spaced with unsettling precision, forming a pattern across the sky that felt intentional. Not random. Not natural. I stood frozen beside Aaron and Lucas, all three of us staring upward, unable to look away. There were no faces. No eyes. And yet, the sensation was unmistakable. They were facing downward. Focused. Watching everything beneath them. The air grew heavy, pressing against my chest, making it harder to breathe. People around us stopped moving entirely, afraid that even a step might draw attention. The black ghosts didn't descend. They didn't reach out. They simply hovered there, silent, massive, aware. Watching Caleb. Watching Aaron. Watching Lucas. Watching all of us. And somehow, that was worse than if they had moved. Animals froze where they stood. Birds fell silent mid-flight, dropping from the sky as if something had switched them off. The wind died completely. Trees stopped swaying. Even the air around us felt heavy and still. I stood frozen with Caleb, Aaron, and Lucas, none of us daring to move. It felt like the world had paused, except for one thing. The shadows on the ground began to change. They no longer matched the sun. They stretched in impossible directions, sliding across the earth, passing over our feet. Every shadow, ours included, pulled away from us. Upward. Toward the black ghosts hovering above. Caleb's shadow elongated first, thinning unnaturally. Aaron's shadow twisted, lagging behind his movements. Lucas tried to step back, his shadow didn't follow. The ground itself seemed to respond, darkness reaching higher, as if gravity had reversed. The black ghosts remained motionless. But everything below them was reacting. And in that moment, all four of us understood. The world wasn't breaking. It was responding. They weren't invading. They weren't descending. The black ghosts hovering above stayed perfectly still. No movement, no aggression, only observation. And then it hit me. They were counting. Every step we took. Every flick of our shadows across the ground. Every twitch, every hesitation. Caleb's shadow elongated unnaturally. Aaron's shadow lagged behind him, twisting in impossible angels. Lucas tried to move quickly, but his shadow refused to follow. Each motion below caused a subtle shift above. A ripple through the black figures. A gentle sway, a pause, a tiny repositioning. It was as if the sky itself were taking note. Cataloging us. Watching, learning. Patiently. I realized then, the black ghosts weren't here to hunt. They weren't here to attack. They were here to observe. To count. To record. And every one of us, Caleb, Aaron, Lucas, and I had been placed under their watchful gaze. The sky didn't just darken. It judged. It remembered. And it would not forget. When the sky finally returned to normal, nothing was missing. No destruction. No signs. Except this. Every shadow on the ground now faced upward. And none of them belonged to Caleb, Aaron, or Lucas. So that was the end of episode 61 of Dynamic Dark. If these chilling tales and haunted stories made you shiver, Tell us in the comments which story kept you awake tonight. The most terrifying comment. I, Aditya, will pin it. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and enable notifications bell so you never miss our next descent into the unknown. And share this video with your friends and family if they can handle the fear. Have a haunted location, creepy encounter, or urban legend to share? Drop it in the comments. The idea with the most likes will be featured in our next episode. Episode 62 is coming soon, where we will dive deep into creepypasta horror stories, uncover darker mysteries, cursed places, and secrets that linger where the shadows never sleep. Stay tuned, keep watching, and dare to explore the terrifying unknown with Dynamic Dark every episode at 7:45 p.m.